And good afternoon to everybody, and welcome to another edition of Real Talks. My name is David Steele, and on this show, I talk about films that are new and old, and basically talk about why they are significant. And I'm at this point looking back at some of the films that we've had over the past 40 years, and really touching upon some of them. So today, as a matter of fact, I just uploaded for anybody who's a subscriber. Go like and subscribe the videos. But more importantly, guys, I'm doing retrospectives on all these films coming up throughout the whole year. The Batman just turned 2 a couple days ago. I just uploaded that, so that is there for you guys. But today I have a whole brand new series, and it's a monthly series you guys can find on the channel for free. Everything is free on the channel. And this is my perfect movie series. And what I'm doing is basically taking films that I think are, quote, perfect, and obviously all films are subjective. And these are films that are, whether they're critically acclaimed or they've won awards or they've done really well at the box office, whatever it is. And I'm going back and talking about them. And so today, this is another entry, and this is a monthly thing that I do on a weekly or on a monthly basis. And so today, I thought I would chime in on a film that has really done well over the years, and I'm talking about Skyfall. Skyfall is a film. It's arguably some. Now let's back up for a minute. So Skyfall. James Bond has been around for over 50 years. Okay. And whether you grew up watching Sean Connery or Roger Moore or Timothy Dalton, you have your particular Bond in themselves. I mean, it was just like the other day when I was talking about Batman. Batman is one of those, when you talk about them, you have your particular one. I mean, I'm an Adam West guy. I love the Batman television series, but I grew up with Michael Keaton in all of those sense. So this is the same thing. James Bond is one of those characters that's iconic. He's the ultimate spy, right? So Ian Fleming developed this character many years ago, and it was a different character back then, but he's transformed over the years. And that all being said, we've had a lot of iterations of Bond, and we've had a lot of iterations of who's played Bond. All British actors, basically, whether it is Timothy Dalton or Roger Moore, in this case, Daniel Craig. And this film was not only incredible for a multitude of different reasons, and there's 5 big things, okay, that every James Bond film has had and always will have. And I'm going to get to all those in a minute. But this was the first time in history that we really had a linear story. So this dates all the way back to the first film that rebooted the whole thing with Casino Royale. And I thought it was a fantastic entry. I mean, I'm a Texas Hold'em kind of guy. I mean, I just did a whole, thing on Rounders a couple of months ago. I love Rounders. Nonetheless, I love Texas Hold'em. So they were bringing it up to date. So that was a great entry in itself. Matt Mikkelsen was amazing. You had Daniel Craig, who was making his premiere as Bond. And then what they did over the course of the next few films is they made it all linear. You had Quantum of Solace. Of course, this was the third entry into it, and it was a moneymaker. It was an absolute moneymaker. I'm going to get into the financials, too, in a couple minutes, but I just wanted to give a little backstory about where this is in the whole pantheon of Bond films. I remember going to see this in IMAX, and I've always said this before. I think every time you see a movie for the first time, you remember where you were. You remember whether you saw it in IMAX or not. You remember who you were with. There were events, right? Whether it's a Star Wars movie or a James Bond movie or whatever it is, Harry Potter maybe. This I remember seeing with my stepsister's husband, okay? And we went to go see this in IMAX. And my God, it was beautiful. So James Bond. So that all being said, Daniel Craig, this is his third Bond film. He'll do 2 more, okay, in Spectre, which was not bad. It was good. And then No Time to Die. And I'll give No Time. I didn't care for No Time to Die because of a lot of different reasons. But let's go back to Skyfall. So Skyfall was released right around November, okay? And this had a massive budget, okay, as all Bond films usually do. This was $200 million. And once again, Sam Mendes, who has really proven himself as a filmmaker, just hit a home run. He hit a home run out of the park in so many different levels. And this was outstanding. So it actually ended up making close to 88 million, a little under $88.5 million, which was 29% of its full gross. It made a little over $300 million, which is incredible. Now, most of the money that it made was overseas. This ended up being a billion-dollar Bond film. And we'd never had that before, ever. We'd never had a Bond film that made $1 billion. I mean, we always talk about money and how big it is, and $1 billion. This made over $800 million overseas. So you knew that he did something right. Okay. All that being said, where this ended up, and think about this, guys. Think about this for a minute. Of all the movies ever made, I'm talking about the Star Warses, I'm talking about the Harry Potters. This is number 30 all time in all of the films ever made. This is just to show you how good this is. This came in just under Captain America Civil War, okay? And that nearly opened to $200 million. I mean, by the way, guys, just a little prelude. Tomorrow, I'm going to start streaming. I have a whole series of films coming up. We're going to be doing what's called Marvel March here on the channel. Stay tuned. Tomorrow is going to be Iron Man. On Thursday, we've got Infinity War. The whole month is going to be all Marvel films. But that just shows you the gravitas of this, right? It was incredible. So, all that being said, so the synopsis, the little synopsis is one of those things where Bond he has to find out if he ends up getting shot at the beginning of the film and everything else. So I said there were 5 things. Let me dive into the first of the 5 things, okay? And that is the opening sequence. The opening sequence of any Bond film is so important because it's one of those things where it's a creative process and it's visually spectacular. And this is, I mean, think about any Bond film that you've ever seen, okay? Whether it's No Time to Die, or it's a Skyfall, or a Casino Royale, or even going back further than that. They all had their opening sequences, and that's an important aspect of it. And it's just visually stunning, okay? And ironically, guys, believe it or not, the last 3, if you can get a Bond film, right? If you can sing the title track to a Bond film, you're almost guaranteed an Oscar. So the last 3 times, okay, that a title track for a Bond film has been sung, they've won Oscars. Skyfall was done by Adele, which was a magnificent originals winner, okay? You had Spectre, and then, of course, you had Billie Eilish doing No Time to Die. So think about that. That in itself is impressive. So that's remarkable, okay? But the opening sequence is always something that is very important. Now, another thing that really we touch upon is the opening, not only the opening sequences, but how the film opens. So Roger Deakins, and I'm going to get to him in just a minute, he's an amazing cinematographer. And one of the first shots you see is Bond going down the hallway. And he's trying to find this hard drive, obviously. I'm not going to go beat by beat by beat, okay? I'm not going to bore you guys. But I just want to show you a little bit of the impressive cinematography that was really part of this. And this is what makes it a perfect movie, right? The cinematography is outstanding. So anybody who's a film of cinematography or anybody else, as I brought up the name Roger Deakins. Now, who is Roger Deakins? Roger Deakins been in the business for over 30 years, okay? And he's done movies that everybody has heard of. Okay. He's done Blade Runner 2049, which of course Denis Villeneuve directed. Okay. And by the way, guys, Denis Villeneuve just put out those brand new. He's got Dune Part 2 out there. I saw it. I did a spoiler cast on it. I'll put up the little link there in the description for you guys. It's an incredible movie. Go check out the spoiler cast. But he's worked with Denis Villeneuve before. Okay. He's worked with Sam Mendes, of course, on this, and then he did 1917. He's done other films such as No Country for Old Men and The Fargo way back in the 90s. An amazing, amazing cinematographer. And he's won 2 Oscars. So this guy knows what he's doing. Okay. He ended up winning for Blade Runner 2049, and it was something else. 1917. So, of course, 1917 was a war film so right after Skyfall, that was the next thing that Sam Mendes tackled. It was 1917. Has one of the greatest opening shots next to gravity that you'd ever see. He ended up winning a second Oscar. I didn't realize this, guys. He's been nominated 16 times. 16 times. Okay? Not only that, he's done films like The Shawshank Redemption. He's done, as I said, No Country for Old Men. That blew my mind. I've loved Shawshank Redemption. I've seen it probably 50 or 60 times. I didn't know he was a cinematographer on it. And it makes all the sense in the world. So Roger Deakins really hit a home run with his cinematography. So let me get back to a couple of the other things. So as I said, that's one of the important things. The Bangkok fight. This is an amazing shot itself. So a lot of what you'll see in his films, okay, are silhouettes. Okay, we see it, early on with Bond at the bar, okay, when you see, it's daylight, and then you see the kind of silhouette of Bond. Then this is an amazing shot, okay? These two, Patrice and Bond, are going at it, and the light, there's no light on the set there. It's all from the billboard from behind. But you see them fighting, and it's tremendously done, and how it's done. And it's just, and the sequence goes on for a while until, of course, he gets thrown off, but amazing. Another fantastic shot, Macau. Now, the ES, or the established shot of Macau, we see that, and that's the other thing too, okay? International. Bond is all about being an international spy. So we go from London to Macau to Bangkok to all these different places. And the establishing shots are tremendous. This in itself, okay, is remarkable. And then you have the fireworks going off in the background. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Okay. And we're not even talking about the action yet, guys. I'm just getting the cinematography. And then, of course, you have shots like this in the third act, right? Now, that's Silva. And you're seeing, this is after Skyfall explodes and they all escape, but it's like, holy moly. Can you get any bigger and better than that? And so that's where really you start to see the genius. And by the way, guys, you only get one shot of blowing up that kind of house, so there's a lot of prep goes into it. So when those flames are going, you're only able to get that shot 1 or 2 times. But that in itself is an incredible thing. And the other shot that really struck me, and I've seen Skyfall probably, I don't know, no joke, probably about 10 times. Every single time I see it, there's one shot that still gets me. I want you to take a look at this shot, guys. Anybody who's a geek that loves film is going to love this film, is going to love this shot. And he kind of does it to Inspector to a certain extent at the funeral of one of the people. But take a look at this shot. You have everything that you'd want in this kind of shot. So first you have the color from the flags. Okay, you have the red, white, and the blue of the flags. Then Okay. Then you have the white background. So there's a little juxtaposition there. Then you have M standing there, and she's in all black. And you get to see the white and the black playing off each other. And it's just unbelievable. And then on top of all of that, okay, you have the depth of field. So depth of field, for anybody who's not familiar, you put a camera, like my camera's with me. So I put something way back, okay, much further back than I am now, and you're able to get that depth of field. And that's what it's called. And when you have all of those components in one shot, it's remarkable. And this is obviously somebody who's a master at his craft. Of course, winning 2 Academy Awards, as I said, but it's just unbelievable. Because here's the thing, guys. When we watch a movie for a minute, we're watching who's on screen, but we have to take account at how it's done. Okay? How did they do this? Or how did they do that? You know, and there's so many different things that go into it. So this kind of shot, it's beautiful. And all of these different shots that I've shown you, okay, is part of the cinematography and part of what makes the film what it is. So that is the first major thing, okay? So the crux of the movie, okay, at the end of the day, okay, the crux of the movie is Bond gets shot. He has to come back. We all know this, okay? And as I said, I'm not going to go beat by beat. But the crux of the movie is that she lied. M lied to Bond, right, about passing the test. And that is the major thing. And so once he does his thing and he kills Patrice, okay, he then goes to Macau, okay? And once he goes to Macau, he finds out who the next step, right? Severine, okay? And she's a beautiful, so that is the second aspect of any Bond film, okay? So the first is and I'm kind of jumping around here, but bear with me. The first is the international action, the international portion of it. The second of it hello, Dadpool, how are you? Thank you very much. So the second aspect of this is the Bond girl, okay? You take any Bond movie over the past 50 years. It doesn't matter if it's Pussy Galore or it's, Halle Berry's character or Severine or whoever it is. The Bond girl plays a significant part in how this goes. Okay, now at the end of the day, she's just a vehicle to the ultimate. I wouldn't even call her a proxy. Okay, she is she's just a vehicle or a tool. Okay, to really show you what is to come. And so when Bond talks to her and says, I want to meet your employer and everything else, now I will say one thing. I do think, personally speaking, she has a little too much makeup on. That's just me personally. This is how they wanted it. I mean, here she is without the makeup, so you can definitely tell the difference. She's beautiful. She's absolutely beautiful. Okay. And that all being said, it's a matter of preference at that point. But so when they get to the island, okay, so the third thing that makes any Bond film, so we've touched upon the international action, we've touched upon the Bond girl, which is extremely important, okay, and the third thing, so there are a couple of other little tidbits here. Okay. First and foremost, Bond loves his drinks. Okay. Bond loves his drinks. And so the simple fact that, I mean, in all of the films you basically see, okay, it's in Casino Royale, they did it differently. He basically tells the waiter exactly what, a martini. And here you don't hear, I want a martini shaken, not stirred. You just watch, right? And she just pours in, all he says is perfect. And that, I was talking about this the other day. Less is more, right? I was talking about the Batman the other day. We didn't need to see the different, we all know that Batman's parents got shot, right? We don't need to see it again. It's the same, just hint at it. It's the same premise. We don't need to hear the shaken, not stirred. We know that he drinks martinis. It was just really well done. Okay. So once again, he meets Severine there and they have their conversation. How much you know about fear? I know everything. So the third aspect, okay, the third major thing to any Bond movie, okay, and it doesn't matter who it is, it's the villain. It's the villain. Whether it's Goldfinger, whether it's Silva, anybody else, that Bond villain has to be formidable. And that's honestly another reason why I didn't care for No Time to Die. I mean, Dadpool was asking me about that the other day. If you look at all of the Bond films in this series, okay, from Casino Royale to Quantum of Solace to Skyfall to Spectre, we had seen James Bond confront the villain about halfway through the film. Whoever it is, whether it was Philip Green, whether it was Silva, whether it was, Lashif, in No Time to Die, we only see him confront him about 20 or 30 minutes left in the film. And to me, there's no confrontation. There's no butting at the heads. And that's what you need. Silva, Javier Bardem was awesome. There's no getting around it. I think for me personally, and this, for everybody it's different. Okay. He is the best Bond villain we've ever had. Hands down, twice on Sunday. Now, Christoph Waltz was decent. Okay. But what Silva does is remarkable. And I think that's another reason why. And one of the greatest sequences of the film, okay, is, right before this sequence here, okay. So one of the greatest sequences is basically that we see that the soliloquy, right? So there is about a 5 or 6 minute soliloquy. When we see Bond, so the next thing we see once they get off the ship is this. Once again, guys, depth of field. Okay? Depth of field is so important. So we have all these servers around. We've got a couple computers up here in the foreground. Okay? And then you see this elevator going down. And then when Silver gets off the elevator, he has his 4 or 5 minute soliloquy about the island that his grandmother used to have and how they were getting rats off of it and everything else. And that's all Javier Bardem right there. All of it. And the way that he is able to do, because don't forget, guys, they have cues. They have spots where they have to be. Okay? Which means they have to pace themselves. And you have to be able to talk at a different pace and still carry on the conversation. And by the time you get to Bond, you're like, okay. So that soliloquy was fantastic. Okay. And, how he comes down, right? He doesn't make a bold entrance. It's slight. You see the elevator slowly going down. And then once we get to him actually sitting down and talking to Bond and saying, yeah, I was at Station H, and all of this. basically he's casual about it, right? And we don't know why he's a villain yet. Let's keep that in mind. We know that this is a cyber attack. We know that they found we have all the different pieces, but we don't know why this Silva is a villain, and that's so important. Once again, going back to the backstory of the Batman yesterday. Okay, guys, the simple premise is we find out eventually why Edward becomes the Riddler. Okay, because he's fed up with the system and everything else. Here's the same premise. We don't know why Silva has done this, okay? Except we know that he's a bad guy. And when we get the backstory later on about how he was traded, okay, and he was done in by M, who he believes has wronged her, then it all starts to come into fruition. And that's very important. So that all being said, that being said, it's so, there's a little bit of comedy in there too, and he gets captured, gets brought back, and he gets put in a cell, and then finally they confront one another. And once they confront one another, it's once they confront one another, it's game on. And so at that point we find out that, she traded him in, and it's just remarkable. So that is the third of the 5 major things. Okay. The fourth one, the most, I think, obviously the music is iconic in itself. The car, right? Dun-dun. I'm not going to try to duplicate it, but you get it, right? It's the car, the Aston Martin. The Aston Martin is the premier Bond thing, right? And that's the funny thing. So after the shootout at their little parliament, okay, the state house there, Bond kidnaps her and basically says, we have to get off the grid. So they go to this garage, and she says, I love the humor. Oh, well, we're not hiding in there. No. So he just flips on the light, and then you hear dun-dun, dun-dun. And of course, it's iconic, the Aston Martin. And she says, oh, I suppose that's a little less, conspicuous, right? And then as they're driving along, he was about to, go ahead and inject me. But I mean, that's the thing. It's playful. And that's the thing. So the next thing, how they introduce the car. Because at the beginning of every mission, we always see Q, who, by the way, that was interesting in how they introduced Q. Okay. We have a brand new Q there. Okay. At the museum. So when they're talking, because look, it's all about the gadgets and everything else. And so, so it's all about the gadgets. It's all about the gadgets and how it's done. But that's the thing. Q is so when they're looking at the ship, and that's the other thing too, there was a metaphor. Like, he's about to leave, and Q sits down, basically says, what are you looking at? What do you think about this painting? This is a bloody old ship. And that could be a metaphor for, that's definitely a metaphor for Bond at that point, right? Because he's an older guy. And you're thinking, okay, they're going to put him out to pass. So, as I said, the Aston Martin is definitely another aspect of the whole thing. And then once you see Silva escape, okay, then it's a whole other movie. It's a whole other movie because you have the first. So the first act is really trying to find Silva. The second act is finding Silva and bringing him back, and the third act is the escape. And once we get to that third act, and Q gets hacked and and MI6 gets hacked, it's a whole different movie. And of course, we find out what Skyfall is, when we find out that is where we find out that's where James grew up. And, so when he goes back there and that's where they go, and then the house gets blown up, because they bring the attack. And then, the secret tunnels down to the chapel, or, and we then find out, we see his father, right? And everything else. But we also find out that it was all about M, and, she eventually gets shot. So spoiler, guys, I'm going to spoil this. If you haven't seen Skyfall, you can cut it off now, and then I should have put spoilers in there. But nonetheless, she dies. And, she even has a coy little thing when she's, right in Bond's arms, right? But she says, "You think it's too late to make a run for it?" And Bond says, "I'm game if you are." And of course she dies. And by the way, guys, that's something else. Like, Judi Dench had played this role for 25 years. Really. I mean, she was really more than that. I mean, really like the mid 90s. Okay. I mean, I forget which film she really came in to playing M in. I want to say it was The Living Daylights. Don't quote me on that. But she had been M for how long? 25, 30 years? I mean, occasionally, off and on, right? But she had been in a very close to at least 8, 9, 10 films. So there was a little bit of heartbreak there, to see a character that's a beloved character like that die after so long. But if you're a film person, you understand why she had to die. And like I said at the beginning of the show, she lied to Bond. That's the whole crux of this movie. That she lied to Bond about the tests. And thank you very much, Antonius, for that. So 1995. So that's a long time. That's a lot of movies. Okay? And to see a character like this finally die is kind of like, it's heart-wrenching. It really is. That being said, but that's the whole basis of the film. She lied to Bond about the tests. So, and then, that's the whole premise. When, Silva basically comes back and says, she lied to you, She lied to you, and, Mommy was very bad. I mean, how many times have you seen that meme out there? Mommy was very bad. But it's the way it's delivered. The fact that she died is tragic. But as a filmmaker, you understand why she had to. And, then of course you have Naomi Scott, who plays Pennyworth. I'm not sorry, Moneypenny. Thank you. But I mean, so those are that's the crux of everything. And I have honestly, like I've said, I've seen this 5 or 6 times, and it's still a phenomenal movie. Every single time I sit down and watch it, and why it made as much money as it did. This is one of those movies, guys, and I don't know about you, but for me, this is one of those movies that whenever it is on, whatever part it's on, if I'm flipping through the channels and I see that it's on, I'll watch it. I mean, it's like The Social Network. It's like Silence of the Lambs. It's like Pulp Fiction. It's like Training Day. There are certain films out there that you will watch no matter what part it's in because it's that good. And those are the 5 things. You've got the villain, you've got the introduction of the car, the international spy, the action sequences, and the Bond girl. And those are the 5 things that make up a quality James Bond film. Now, you say, well, what about something like Spectre? Spectre was okay. But I think the problem in Spectre was, even in Spectre, we saw Christoph Waltz's character halfway through once he gets to Rome. The problem, I think, that Spectre had, okay, was that once again it was it was a linear up until that point it was a linear type of thing. I go back to Marvel, but there was no like end game. No pun intended. There was no end game. I mean, we see Christoph Waltz's character, and then we see Raleigh Malek's character in No Time to Die, but that was it. It wasn't like a big finale, right? And Christoph Waltz's character was extremely underused in No Time to Die. He was in one scene. That's it. And I think that's where, a lot of it fell down for me. I didn't believe, spoiler guys for No Time to Die in case you haven't seen it, I didn't believe that was Bond's kid at all. And they were just hiding, she was just hiding it. That didn't work for me. But yeah, that's why it's so good, though. I mean, as I said before, personally speaking, I think Silva is the best Bond villain we've ever had in his deliverance of everything. And you always have to have a Bond villain go up. And I think that was the other reason, too, why I didn't care for No Time to Die, is because you have to have a confrontation, right? So that's where I think it fell down for me. But Silva is the best Bond villain of all time for me, hands down. And that is what Skyfall is all about. It's a perfect movie. In my eyes, it is a perfect movie. It is nothing about the fact that it made $1 billion. And by the way, guys, just the fact that it did make $1 billion goes to show you people thoroughly enjoyed the film. So that's where it's at. I can't believe it's 12 years old already. It's going to be like 13 in November. But yeah, that is No Time to Die. Or I'm sorry, that is Skyfall. And Skyfall is just a perfect film for me. So, quick couple of things. Coming up. Tomorrow, we're going to start Marvel March. So I wanted to get this perfect movie out to you guys as soon as possible. Tomorrow is going to be the beginning of Marvel March. So tomorrow we are going to do Iron Man. Okay. That is going to be the first major thing. On Thursday, okay, we are going to have Infinity War. I know I'm going to jump around here, but we're going to be doing Infinity War because to me, that is another major film that's momentous. Okay. It's a 10-year span, but there's a lot to go on. Coming up later on next week, okay, we're going to be doing Endgame, okay, Spider-Man No Way Home. I'm going to be sitting down to do Winter Soldier again. There's a lot of other films that are really top-notch for Marvel. I'm going to be covering all of these here on the channel. So that is something in itself. And I can't wait. It's interesting. I've seen all the Marvel films before, but I still can't wait to sit down and watch some of these again. Now, by the way, guys, as a little note, okay, and I'm going to get to this here in a minute, okay, as a little note, I've done the Perfect Movie Series. For the Perfect Movie Series, I actually did Captain America and Winter Soldier. I do believe it's a perfect movie. That being said, guys, what you just saw, memberships. I'm not one for asking for money, okay? But I am going to ask a couple of things. First and foremost, the first month here is free for you guys, okay? I've made it extremely cheap, okay? $2.99, $5 or $6.99, and tops is $9.99, okay? That being said, as I said, the first month is free. Join up, okay? If you think that after a month you don't think you're getting your money's worth, you can cancel at any time. Okay. But if you really believe in me, okay, then I would really appreciate your help on this. Okay. And that all being said, okay, I'm providing at $9.99 a month. Okay. I'm gonna come over here because I think it's important. At $9.99 a month, okay, Netflix just raised their prices. Okay. HBO Max right now with ads is $9.99 a month. Okay. That all being said, I'm providing you guys with a plethora of different things for you to watch. So let's say you're not a fan of the retrospectives. I have the perfect movie series like I'm doing today. Okay. Or if you're not a fan of the perfect movie series, guys, I got the anatomy of the movie series. Okay. Or if you don't like the anatomy of movie series, I'm doing interviews every now and then. I'm mixing it up for all of you guys so you can get what you want. Okay. I'm open to any other interviews or anything else. That being said, it's it's not a big thing, guys. Okay. So $3 a month is a cup of coffee at Starbucks. $7 a month is nearly a gallon of gas, depending on where you are in the country. $10 a month, it's a large pizza, guys. I'm providing you more free entertainment for $10 a month than anywhere you can get, whether it's Netflix, Hulu, HBO Max, doesn't matter. And it's all free, guys. I'm not putting anything behind a paywall. Anything. I could, but I'm not going to because I know that, look, I watch YouTube just like you guys. So I know that it's vital. That all being said, my goal, and I do have goals here. My goal is number one, I want to get to 2,000 subscribers by the end of this year. Hashtag road to 2,000. Number two, I would like to try and get 15 to 20 paid subscriptions by the end of this year, which I think is very doable with your guys' help. If you don't ever want to do anything monetarily for me, hit that like and subscribe button, guys. When you hit that like and subscribe button, that tells me a couple things. Number one, you like the content. Number two, it puts the content out there for others to see. And number three, when you guys comment on it, I respond to everybody's comment. Okay? Everybody's comment. And that being said, it's well worth the money. It's well worth the money. Okay? I'm not gonna, get on here and beg. Oh, you need to give me. Here's what I'm gonna give you. Here's what I'm doing for you. I would like you to believe me, and that's the biggest thing. So, I mean, I just told you I'm going to be doing Marvel March. Okay, if that alone doesn't say, something, look, subscribe right now. Hit the join button right now, and then if you don't like it at the end of the month, you can cancel. But I don't think you will. I don't think you will. And I'm trying to put together, as a matter of fact, I'll take this off the screen for a minute. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be doing 2 streams tomorrow. Not only am I going to be doing Iron Man, I'm going to have Matthew Anderson come back. We're going to be doing it the 2nd annual Real Talks Oscar prediction show. And I'm going to have Matthew Anderson on the show again. And we're going to talk about the Oscars. The Oscars is this Sunday, guys. So, and I'm going to be sitting down and I'm going to be doing a stream after the Oscars. Guys, if you have any questions, feel free, bring them on in, and we'll talk about those. So I'm giving you a ton of content, guys. And this is why I'm asking for your belief in me. So all of that being said, with all of the stuff that's going on, so stay tuned tomorrow. We're going to have the Iron Man stream, and we're going to have Matthew Anderson on. That starts at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Be there. That's all I'm going to say. Be there. It's going to be a fun stream. The Iron Man one is going to happen earlier in the day. I still don't know what time, but definitely before 2 p.m. So that is going to do it for me today. Thank you for everybody that came. And guys, do me a favor. If you're going to watch this after the fact, please, Leave a comment down there. Tell me who your favorite Bond girl is. Which Bond movie is your favorite? Who is your favorite James Bond? Give me all those things down in the comment, and I'll definitely respond to them. Okay, guys, that's going to do it for me. And I am David Steele, and you have been watching Real Talks. Bye-bye, guys.